Hi everyone, welcome to Leon's Chainsaw Parts and Repair. Let's do a little test run on Jeremiah's 925 here. Okay, I've got it idled down about as low as it'll go on purpose. This saw just about drove me absolutely crazy. So, Jeremiah sent it in, said that he had been able to hit it with a prime of gas, but wouldn't draw. No big surprise. The original fuel line that had the molded grommet down in here was dissolved and gone. It had basically fallen down on top of the fuel filter and just turned to a puddle of goo down there. And there were signs of a little bit of moisture in the tank. I think this probably had a tank of ethanol in it the last time it was actually run. So got all that crap cleaned out, replaced the hoses, all that jazz, and got it to run sorta. It didn't want to pull gas. And I'd already been through the carb, or looked at the carb, failed to notice that it had a diaphragm that didn't have a tong to attach to the forked piece of the arm. So, went alright, someone's been in here at some point sometime. Went to the computer, pulled up a diagram for a Walbro WJ27, which is what's in this. This is a 1983 model saw, so it's pretty late for a 925. But anyway, pulled that up, and the rest of the gaskets were right, but I went ahead and replaced them anyway. Put it back together. Damn it, if it would draw fuel, it would, and it would put a little out the back on choke, but it wouldn't run on the low-speed circuit. I could get it to run, and if I kept it on high speed, it would run. Low speed, it would not run. Anything less than half throttle, when it was transitioning back to that low side circuit, it wouldn't run. So into the carburetor again. Now, this carb looks damn near brand new. I drove out the main nozzle, pulled out everything, including the governor, which again should have zero to do with the low speed. And I decided to go back to basics, and I'm looking at it going, how the hell does the low speed circuit draw fuel? Because I popped the Welch plug out, and I could see the inlet, but I'll be damned if I could find a way that fuel was actually getting to that low speed needle, because that's the way it is. It comes in through the carb, through the screen, past the needle that's on the metering arm, and then up into what would be called a float bowl if it was a float carburetor. It's the fuel area, the fuel circuit. And I could see the inlet to the high speed, and it was right by where you could see the adjustment needle, the screw, adjustment screw coming down in. But I'll be damned if I could find anything. So again, I drove the nozzle out just to check, and I thought, man, that's strange, but it looks like it's drawing fuel from the same spot as the high speed, and it is. Now, I don't know what I did to finally fix it. That's the part I don't like. But I took electronics cleaner and my air hose, and being careful, wearing safety glasses and so on and so forth, I blew through every passage I could find, and I determined, so you've got your high-speed adjustment needle coming in, and you've got a feed hole right here. Now obviously that size is exaggerated, but even when this is closed, fuel still will flow past here, and there's a tiny little circuit that runs over to the low-speed side. It's all internal. You cannot get a wire through it, or at least I couldn't. But what I could get through it eventually was electronics cleaner and soapy water by putting air, in the right spots. So I'm left to assume that something got its way into that passage and was not allowing it to draw fuel on the low speed side. You heard it, it was idling. It was idling low, but that was on purpose. I really wanted to put this thing to the test. Now, another touchy carburetor, a tiny little smidge of a turn is enough to make a difference. So we'll see. In fact, we've been jabbering, or I've been jabbering for a couple minutes. Let's see if it'll restart without giving me any horse crap. I don't like not knowing exactly what I did, because the only other thing that I did is I raised that inlet needle arm a little bit higher than I normally would, but I had the carb under pressure, made sure it wasn't leaking by, and when it started that easily, that told me it was not sitting there perking fuel. Since it would run at high speed before, I don't buy that. I'm not buying that it wasn't getting enough fuel past the inlet needle. That doesn't cut it with me. So I'm thinking there was some sort of trash that had made its way into that little tiny passage, and I mean, we're talking one strand of braided wire, one individual strand. You could start to get in there, but there was no way in the world you were going to fish it all the way through. There's too many bends. So how they milled that, I don't know, or how they did that. It must have been drilled, which means it has to be straight, but again, I wasn't successful in pushing a needle through, or a piece of wire through. So there it is, a 925. The only other thing I had to do of any real importance was replace a broken starter pawl. Now to the fun stuff, and I don't have the part here. Jeremiah sent along this full wrap handle. This is a vinyl wrapped one. So this would have been used on the 921 through 924. The bracket that's with it is for a Super EZ full wrap. So that's not going to be usable here. I'm going to cut that off right now. So there were from what I could tell, three different full wrap brackets that were used on the various versions from the that would have been the 850, 800, whatever, on up. The 921 to 924 IPL does a great job of breaking down what is used where. Now notice, it sits lower. So there was the hope, of course, but it doesn't work. Ground the end off here, but found out it doesn't work. So I tracked down a used bracket from a 924 that is now on its way that should go in here. I don't know. There were two different styles. This is a hard mount. There's no isolators in there. I don't know which one I've got coming because the 924 used both. Either way, it doesn't matter. The thread size is the same. So I'll get it figured out when that comes in. We'll get this full wrap mounted on here. And yeah, other than that, assuming this thing will do a cold start in a day or two, we're ready to rock and roll.